Welcome to Dynasty Sports Podcast, Episode 3. Joey Blackmore, myself, Cole Jirik here with a couple special guests.
Yeah, first, I'm going to introduce both of them. First, we've got Coach Youngbloom. Okay, so he is from Sisseton, South Dakota. He played ball at Minnesota State-Moorhead, a Division II school. Obviously, a lot of the listeners are from the area. They know all about Minnesota State-Moorhead. He got there in 2011. He started as a tight end, and I believe you were a 2-year starter there, your freshman and sophomore year. Is that correct, Wade?
Yep.
Okay, and then your junior and senior year is when you got moved over to the defensive line. Transition, they needed the switch. You got some good playing time there as well. Right after your playing career was done, you became a GA at Minnesota State-Moorhead. You coached, if I'm correct, you had like 3 positions: running backs, tight ends, fullbacks.
Yep.
Okay. You did that for 2 years? 2 years, and then that's when you switched over to the defensive side. And you did that for 2 years as well. Yep. So your playing career kind of, I just realized that as I was talking about it, kind of followed right into your coaching career. 2 years on offense, 2 years on defense. And now you're going back to the offensive side of the ball as you're the current wide receivers coach at MSUM.
Correct.
Okay, the second guest we have here is Carlton Littlejohn. Carlton's from Minneapolis North High School. He's a Polar. He played football with Cole and myself. He's a year younger than us at North Dakota State from 2010 to 2014. Carlton was, after your first year, you were essentially just a complete staple to that defense, starting at all 3 spots. In your first year, you were primarily the Sam and the nickel. Is that correct, Carl?
Yep, Sam and then nickel, Mike.
Yeah. So, and for those of you that don't know, nickel is kind of a third down package where we get those athletes out on the field. That's when we bump Carl inside. Had some blitz packages for him, let him cover in space. But after that, like I said, he played and started at the Sam spot, at the Will spot, and at the Mike spot. So all 3 linebacker positions at North Dakota State. Graduated in 2014, had a cup of tea with the Minnesota Vikings, and then he went on to play in the CFL for 1 season, correct? Up in Winnipeg, the Blue Bombers?
Yep.
Okay, so after that, I convinced him to stop being a professional athlete and come coach football. So he took a linebacker's job at the University of Jamestown, which is an NAIA school in North Dakota. He did that for 1 season. Then he bounced over to Gustavus. He got hired as the co-defensive coordinator there and the linebackers coach. He did that for 1 season, and then I convinced him to come to Minnesota State-Moorhead to be the co-defensive coordinator alongside of myself. And he still has that role, co-defensive coordinator, and he's still the linebackers coach there. So how are you guys doing?
Good. Can't complain. Happy to be on.
Complain.
Yeah, thanks.
Everyone's not too bad.
Thanks for having us out.
Hey, Carlton, during your career at NDSU, was it true that you got moved to defensive end but were told we're not athletic enough to play? You got sent back to linebacker? Is that how it went?
It was similar. It was kind of like that. They told me, hey, you're going to be a DN, but you're too smart, so we're going to switch you back to linebacker.
Oh. Okay, yeah, because, I mean, you and another guy got switched to defensive end at the same time, and the other guy moved on to the NFL, Kyle Emanuel, and you got sent back to linebacker because you just weren't athletic to play the spot. I think that's how it went down.
Yeah, kind of like that.
Okay, or maybe, Carl, you were just too smart that they wanted you elsewhere.
Yeah, I think that's the story I'm going with.
Are you saying that defensive ends aren't smart?
Am I saying that defensive ends aren't as smart as the linebackers? Yes, I'm saying that.
I think I was at least smarter than one of the linebackers on the field.
Maybe. Yeah. So so 2018 was Minnesota State-Moorhead's best season in the history of their school at the Division II level. So it was like the best season in 30 years because that's when they made the jump or something, I think. I don't know the history as well as Coach Youngbloom probably does, being a player and the coach there. But all 3 of us were coaching on the defensive side of the ball that year, and we had some pretty good success. Obviously, that was our 8-win season. We finished second in the North behind undefeated Duluth, who obviously went on into the playoffs that year. And 2 of our losses were to the number 1 and number number 3 teams in the country in Mankato and Duluth that year?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So Wade, one thing that I'm really interested in hearing your kind of story as far as being a player at Minnesota State-Moorhead, where, and correct me if I'm wrong, you were the first recruiting class under Coach Lockway, or were you the second?
No, correct. I was part of the first class.
And when you got there, and when Coach Lockway got there, I mean, that program was in shambles. That's to say it lightly.
Yeah, that's saying it probably the nicest way possible.
You go.
No, you go.
I was just going to say, how has he really changed just the culture? You know, obviously you were there from the start of it, and you've been there, what, a total of 9-10 years?
It's going to be my 10th fall already.
That's wild.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess kind of how he changed it right away, you know, he had a spring, you know, technically with the guys that were currently on the team before I got there. And, you know, really he had to implement that. You know, you're either in or you're out. You know, I hear stories from guys that were obviously older than I was and stayed on the team when he got hired of, you know, that wasn't how a college football program should be run, you know, and how the players did certain things. So when he got there, it was, you know, he had to develop a toughness, and you were either in or you were out, and there wasn't really any in between. So the things he did as far as, you know, starting to implement both his leadership strategies and also getting the right people in the program. You know, I think if you talk to a lot of people that I played with and came in that program within Coach Lockway's first 2 years, you know, those were guys that, you know, probably maybe we weren't the most talented bunch, but we were, you know, a group that was resilient and, you know, did things the right way and really bought into what Coach Lockway was selling us. So, you know, once we got that and he got those guys around, that's kind of what was able to start, you know, making us make that leap forward, you know, little by little. You know, it didn't obviously happen overnight. But at the same time too, he also did a really good job of just getting local talent. You know, I don't think that's how the team was really assembled before we got there, or before he got there, I should say. And then once he kind of got his recruiting module kind of set and knowing that he can win with guys in the Midwest, you know, specifically, you know, that definitely helped us out and you know, kind of got us to where we are now.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but since Coach Lockway got there, he's improved every year except for 2017. No, 2000. What would it be? Yeah, 17.
Yeah,
2016,
17.
You guys went seven wins. Then we dropped to 6 wins.
And then went to
8. And then last year, what did you guys
small
finish?
dip again. We were 6-5 last year.
6-5. Yeah, but
So
for the most part, it's just been a steady rise the whole way.
Yeah, it was like 2-9. Technically my first year when I was a redshirt. Then it was 1-10. But I mean, that 1-10 team, it was basically 30 some freshmen getting playing time in the 2 deep, basically. So
right.
It was 1-10. Then we went 4-7, 4-7, and then made that jump 6-5. And then, like you said.
And then Carlton, how has, you know, you're going into your 3rd season now with Minnesota State-Moorhead. How has things evolved, changed just in your short time? Obviously, when you got there, you know, in my opinion, having been there the year prior, just the 1 year, I mean, you made an immediate impact, not only on the defense in that linebacker room, but also with special teams. How has your, you know, evolution kind of been from your standpoint?
I think the big difference is, like, going from that first year I was there to now is just player leadership. It's a lot better. I think that players are really taking the team, saying, hey, it's our team. I mean, you guys are the coaches. You do all the schematics, but they're just saying, hey, this is our team. We're gonna run it. We're gonna do the punish, and we're gonna make sure guys are held accountable. And I mean, I think that's the biggest difference, probably from Like when Wade started there to now, it's like the team's like the guys are taking ownership of the team, which I mean, it's a big part of having any successful team, I think.
Right. And Cole, you can probably relate to that quite a bit. You know, a lot of people forget our first year at North Dakota State, we were 3-8, and no one really likes to talk about that a ton, but it was one of 3 losing seasons at North Dakota State since 1960. Not a lot of programs in the country can say that. So just kind of piggyback off what they're talking about, Cole, what was your experience at North Dakota State going from that 3-8 year? It honestly probably is going to be similar to what Carlton just said. The players kind of just said that was unacceptable. You know, we were sitting up in the stands watching it, unfortunately, but
it was. I came to NDSU too because of the tradition, the history that we had here, and when I came here, I wanted to win a national championship. That was my goal, and NDSU had some really good teams, and I got kind of introduced to NDSU when I was on a Gopher recruiting visit down at the Metrodome when Tyler Roll came through and ran all over those boys, and Bison Nation showed up with 30,000 at the Metrodome, and I was like, okay, I got to take a look at this school, and that program was so dominant at that time. And then I got there, and they had a down year the year before, I think 6-5 when they were ranked preseason #1 in the nation, and then all of a sudden it was 3-8, and I was like, man, what is going on here? And guys out the field getting in trouble, drinking, DUIs, thefts. It was nasty. Bad things were happening, and the senior leadership really stepped up. They said, hey, this is you're out or you buy in type situation. And we had some really tough practices with Coach Kramer through the off season where he wasn't very happy with us. There's some 5 a.m.s I'll see you at the BSA, and bring a 45-pound plate with you, and we'll see what happens. And a few I'm going to break you moments, and I think that kind of brought the guys together. You go through a workout like that, and you're kind of dying next to your teammates. You pick each other up, and you kind of bond that way. And we kind of drew a line in the sand. It's like you either come with us forward or we're leaving you behind. And from there, we kind of turned things around. Next year, we made the playoffs, and then I won 3 consecutive national championships, finishing the last one undefeated. And it's kind of wild. It's kind of crazy how some senior leadership can make a huge difference, and some young talent, as freshmen coming in, if those seniors, let you do what you want, and, as an 18-year-old, you're probably not always going to make the best decisions. If the senior captain's out partying, being an idiot, doing dumb things off the field, then, the freshman's going to do the same thing and follow along. And, I think, it trickles down. The coaching staff changed things, the upperclassmen changed things, and it came down. And it sounds like that's what happened at MSUM. That's what happens at some of these programs when they are a dumpster fire for a while, and it's hard to have immediate success, and you can just turn things around at the flip of a coin. But you can build into things, and that's what NDSU was able to do there, turn it around pretty quick, and MSUM's built it pretty effectively.
Yeah, it's pretty remarkable when you think about MSUM as really outside of Duluth. I mean, they're a power in the NSIC North now. And no offense, Wade, but when we were playing at North Dakota State, I remember I was just becoming a GA, and I got offered a potential interview to go interview at MSUM, and I was like, what? And then 2 years later, they're a 6-win team, then a 7-win team, and things were looking really good. Wade, how just talk about your recruiting process a little bit, because I know Coach Hazelton recruited you a little bit. For people that don't know, Coach Hazelton was the defensive coordinator at North Dakota State at the time. Really, turned the whole defense around. It was pretty bad when he took over in 2010, and immediately one of the best defenses in the country, followed by a national championship, and really started this whole run. But he recruited you, but you ended up at Moorhead. So how did that kind of happen?
Yeah. So, my recruiting process probably isn't, the same as, your prototypical recruiting process, I guess. But started out, getting recruited really by, a good majority of the NSIC schools, at least a lot of the ones in South Dakota, obviously. And then was getting recruited by Moorhead. So I was kind of one of those camp finds, being a small town kid. We used to come up to NDSU and do the team camp every summer. So that's where I kind of got discovered by both North Dakota State and MSUM. So from there, those two really started recruiting me pretty hard. And this was technically Moorhead's old staff that was doing that at that time. So, and me kind of being a little different than, you know, how most South Dakota kids do it is, you know, a lot of guys usually have a lot of the aspirations to, you know, either become a jackrabbit or a coyote. That really wasn't what I was interested in. I really liked the Fargo-Moorhead area. So I really had my choices really there, or, you know, or it was a potential, you know, USF or Augie, just liking Sioux Falls as well as a community. Anyway, so fast forward, it took game visits to both Moorhead and North Dakota State. That year was the year that you guys got all the way to the semifinals, correct? Against Eastern quarterfinals.
Yeah.
Eastern Washington, right?
Yeah.
So anyways, taking game visits, obviously, I knew really from the get-go, North Dakota State let me know that it was most likely going to be a walk-on fullback. Kind of how I was treated. Got to camps. Coach Paulsek at the time used to just throw me in a bunch of drills, and he used to call me crazy for some reason. And he pushed me, and he was sure to show me where the X-ray room was and all that good stuff when I was on campus. He's like, "This is where my fullbacks spend a lot of time." I was like, "All right, cool," you know. But anyway, so that was going on there. Really in Division II, though, I was really getting recruited kind of everywhere. No one really thought to know what position I was going to be. You know, I was kind of a little short to be a true, you know, real good tight end. And then, you know, I played linebacker in high school, and a lot of people probably didn't know if I could put my hand in the dirt and play D-line. You know, looking at it now from a coach's perspective, I am one of those guys that it is probably tough to know because I could fill out. But anyway, so I had my official visit set up. Again, was you know, probably gonna, you know, I was gonna go to Northern, I was gonna go to North Dakota State, and I was gonna go to Moorhead. Moorhead was gonna be my first one in early December. I got a call the Friday night before my official visit by the coach who was recruiting me at that point, tell me that they got fired. I was like, okay, so that means I'm not coming up. He's like, yep. I was like, all right. So, you know, took my other visits to both schools. You know, obviously really was excited what was happening at NDSU. Basically, all I really had to do was I had to wait for ACT score to come back, and then I was going to commit and call it good and take the walk-on. But then I started kind of reading up on who Moorhead was going to hire, and I saw that Coach Lockway was one of the finalists. So guess kind of quick story there. When he was the head coach at Shanley High School here in Fargo, we used to scrimmage against his team when we came up for that North Dakota camp. And there's one instance that I kind of always bring up. So I scored a touchdown, and he ran up to me and he was like, you know, big dudes like you aren't supposed to move like that. And I was like, why is another coach like complimenting me, you know, whatever. So that kind of like always stuck in my head. And I knew his brother-in-law, Rob Hunt, was a coach at Valley City. So I actually took a Valley City visit just to be around him, but they were recruiting me on defense, so I didn't really get to be around him. So that was kind of a bad plan. That plan kind of backfired on me. But anyway, so Sai was a finalist. He ended up getting hired the day before signing day that year. The coaches at NDSU were very, very patient with me, and they said they weren't in any hurry. You know, a little bit of that was Coach Bull. Obviously, I think has a really great deal of respect for Coach Lockway, and I was like, I just want to see what he's got to offer, you know, before I pull the trigger. So the night that Coach Lockway got hired, he did like his press conference that night and then called me right after. And then I ended up going on a visit there technically 2 days after signing day. And then eventually made the decision to go to Moorhead State. It was a little bit more comfortable campus wise for me, being a small town kid and, you know, being a scholarship athlete. Sounds a little bit better than being a walk-on. So decided to take that. And I mean, I haven't regretted it for a second.
Yeah. Carlton, talk a little bit. Your recruiting was slow at first, at least from the NDSU standpoint, if I remember correctly. Didn't kind of late or in your senior year. I remember hearing a story. Paulsek was in a staff meeting, recruiting meeting, and kind of stood on the table for you and was just like, what are we doing not offering this guy? Like, are you guys crazy? You were obviously a quarterback and a safety. you ended up coming in, and like Cole mentioned earlier, you played DN for your first year, your redshirt year, and then after that, you were again, like I mentioned, a staple on the defense, a staple on special teams. I think you finished your career. I think what are you still like the third leading tackler all time? I think you're second in a solo season behind none other than your boy Colton Heagle.
Old Heagle.
I think he's got you by like one tackle. But yeah, so talk a little bit about your path.
Yeah, so I for sure thought I was a Division II player. I had my sights set on Winona. I liked the campus. I was had a good relationship with the staff. It was actually Coach Entz was working. He was at Winona that year when they were recruiting.
That's right.
So
Did you
I really liked the staff.
You like Winona because it was a nursing school and it's like 3-to-1 girls to guy ratio, or what?
I mean, in recruiting, they did tell me that.
Coach Entz is smart.
But no, I went to their camp and their recruitment is running back. So I played running back at the camp and scored like a bunch of touchdowns in that camp. And they were like, yeah, for sure, we're gonna give you the highest scholarship we can. And I was like, cool, like I'm signing with these guys for sure. And then it was in the playoffs my senior year. We're playing Holy Family Catholic, and Coach Vegan was there recruiting one of their guys. I think it was an offensive lineman there. And after the game, he comes, talks to me and my coach. He's just like, hey, can I get some film on you? And didn't have a highlight tape. Didn't have any of that. Like, it was back when we actually gave him a cassette. Like, we weren't fancy at all. Like,
Minneapolis North didn't have them DVDs rolled up?
No.
Oh, man.
They took that tape and, like, made it into a DVD at NDSU. But, no, I gave them a tape of my, like, full games. And then soon after that, they ended up offering me a scholarship. But there weren't any D1s really on the table until then. I mean, the Gophers they were sending me stuff. They just told me, you're a preferred walk-on type guy. And I'm like, I'm not paying for school all by myself there. Like, we weren't in that situation where we could do that. So I was like, I'm taking the biggest scholarship I can. And at the time I was Winona, didn't really like Mankato. They were just like, they were too cocky for me. Like in recruiting, they were just like, we're the best. We know it. I went to actually visit there and watch the game, and they whooped up on Winona. I'm just like,
was Coach Klannerman too cocky for you?
I didn't meet him.
He was the D coordinator.
He was I met with the DBs guy, but it wasn't Klannerman. He was like a corners guy. But no, I thought I was going to Winona, and then NDSU came in my senior year and offered me a scholarship, and then after that I got like a Northern Iowa scholarship, and then UND offer also. But no, it was really slow until then. I went on the NDSU visit, didn't take another visit after that. I was like, I like this place.
Do you remember the end of your official visit at all?
Yeah, I showed up. I mean, you were like one of the first people I met. DJ was my host.
I remember you were just so quiet. You were wearing your polar Letterman jacket. You kind of standing in the corner of the party.
Who was your host?
BJ, Brandon Jimson.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was a fun one. It was snow everywhere. It was so bad.
It was a complete blizzard. I remember we were like almost stranded at that house party. I'm just glad that I played a small role in getting the Carlton Littlejohn to North Dakota State. That makes me feel good. So just moving on a little bit, talking recruiting, and obviously I was at Moorhead State for two seasons and a spring ball. But I got to know the recruiting process that Coach Lockway has is a little bit different. It's one that I truly respect a ton as far as actually having integrity in who you offer. Moorhead State doesn't just offer 200 people like a lot of teams do, specifically teams in the NSIC, but I mean everyone really around the country. Coach Lockway doesn't have that mentality. So with this COVID-19 pandemic, this virus that's going on, obviously you guys aren't able to get out into the schools. But more importantly, it's looking like you guys won't be able to have kids on campus at all, probably until maybe in the fall. And those visits, as you know, they're game day visits. They aren't nearly as detailed. You don't get to know the kids nearly as much. But also a huge evaluation tool for you guys and for Coach Lockway is seeing kids move in person at summer camps, at your camps, and also just in general, getting kids on campus. How have you guys, well, first, has that mindset changed since I've been out, for a little, I guess, under a year now? Actually, it's probably about a year to the day. Or have you guys adjusted because you obviously aren't allowed to get those kids on campus?
I mean, obviously there's, some things that, have changed a little bit, but, really kind of what you said at the beginning there, that kind of process really hasn't changed for us, and we felt like this last year, it was really successful for us because we had almost our entire class committed, by the end of December. I in my short time as a coach, this was one of the most, easy Januaries that we've ever had. And a little bit of it stems from the early signing period in Division I and all that too. But, we have tried to keep it the same way now, getting into our current situation, and I'll let Carlton hit on it a little bit too. But, that process of us really taking into, we take a lot of stock. We put a lot of stock into a kid that has been to campus once or even multiple times, for that matter. We feel like we win and get kids to want to be a part of our program because of the people, and being there and witnessing it. So obviously right now it's changed up a little bit, and I can let Carlton, kind of hit on that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, we're doing what we can as far as trying to interact with them, and I mean, pretty much tell them as much about our campus and about our coach staff as possible. With, can't see them in person, but I think honestly, the way we're doing things is like it's really working for us. Okay, I think it's better kind of for the kids like in Illinois who I'm recruiting, the kids who honestly wouldn't be able to make on a visit. The way we're doing things with the virtual visits, and we're getting more kids like tuning in, more kids actually learning about our campus than we would have honestly if we'd have had on-campus visits. Okay, so I don't know if it's something we'll do in the future when we do have physical visits, but like I've gotten probably 100 more kids like visiting than I would have if we would have just had them on campus. So I think we're doing good things in the recruiting process. I mean, what was that?
Have you guys adjusted your offer process? Because usually at this point, Minnesota State Moorhead doesn't have a ton of offers out regardless.
Correct.
And you're waiting till July for the most part. Now you're not going to have that opportunity to go see kids move around and get that in-person eval, which is so much more crucial than just watching the film, because anyone can put highlights together and make themselves look pretty good. How are you guys planning on adjusting to that?
So our plan right now is, we've talked with some of the kids have told us that they're going to be doing virtual stuff, either, having a buddy tape and they're going to put it all over Twitter and all that. And, we've even heard of some of the, combines and stuff like that we've usually attended in the past are doing a virtual setup where they can have, X amount of kids in and they're going to test them and post those numbers and all that stuff. Obviously, like you said, it's not as good on the in-person eval. We're going to try to do our best to still get an eval. And I would even say, even like for us, those early offers in the at the end of the summer, a lot of that might have to stem even from going back and really getting a real good evaluation off their junior film. But I also wouldn't be surprised if we just wait a little longer and make sure that we can see these guys play ball in the fall and get more 4-game cut-ups.
You think this will kind of things and slow down the recruiting process a little bit more? I mean, I remember when I was getting recruited back in it was 2009, so a little while ago, and I was one of the first guys NDSU offered, and that was right before my senior season. I didn't even get offered at camp when I was up. It was right after my first game. I think I finally got my offer, and most schools have almost their whole recruiting class before kids played their senior season. Do you think this will kind of maybe shift things back to not offering kids so early and not playing that game? Or do you think when this ends, maybe or next year when they have camps all over the place, teams will go back to offering, freshmen, sophomore scholarships again and kind of wild and crazy stuff?
Yeah, I think it's gonna, in my opinion, I think it's just gonna be kind of a 1 year, little different situation for that moment. You're gonna have the people who will, there's still schools making offers right now, and like Joey said, a lot of that is it's a big amount of kids, and some of it you just don't know. Are you just basically letting the kid know that you're recruiting him and he'll have a spot? But it's definitely the one thing that I guess I could say that you see a lot is right now with people not having guys on visits or making offers. It's all just switched to the social media aspect, and I mean it's just wild. And Carl, you can hit on that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, you can see guys are getting creative on social media just from different schools, all these graphics and stuff. I mean, we're trying not to be just super cliche and like have a bunch of slogans out there and just send you a bunch of stuff. So we're still trying to stick to our way. We're known for our people here. We're not known for a bunch of fancy facilities, cool graphics. I mean, we're down to earth coaches, and I think the community speaks for itself. So I mean, that's what we're offering these guys in competitive football. So I mean, I don't think we're going to really change much in our process. I mean, we still want to truly know, can you play football? Are you a fit for this team? So we're not going to just start throwing out offers, which I respect. I'm like, we have 0 offers out, and it's fine by me.
Do you guys get a lot of videos in from kids that clearly have sped their video up time and a half and make themselves look a little faster, and then you see the ref run down the sideline at a 4-3 or something?
I've seen a few of them. None sent to me.
Yeah, one thing that I thought Cole hit on that was interesting, just with how sped up the recruiting process is, and a lot of that doesn't really apply to Division II recruiting. And one thing that I guess I struggled with a little bit when I was recruiting at Moorhead, and we weren't offering kids, but we were recruiting the same kids that had multiple offers from teams in our own conference. How do you guys think that helps or hurts your process? Obviously, Carlton just said, you guys are genuine people. You guys do things the right way. When you get a Minnesota State Moorhead offer, you know that that's coming with some integrity behind it. But at the same point, when these kids have 4 other offers and those schools are telling them, hey, we need you on campus. Hey, we've already offered you. Minnesota State Moorhead hasn't offered you. How are you guys battling that? How do you guys, kind of handle that?
I mean, it depends on the kind of kid. If he has a bunch of offers and he's just begging for offers and all that stuff just so he can post on Twitter or whatnot, I mean, really that's not the kid we're looking for. So they're weeding themselves out in that way. But, I mean, when you get an offer, it should mean something. That's what we're preaching. Like, okay, you haven't got an offer just because, honestly, we haven't seen it on the field yet. So we're not just going to throw you an offer. So when they get an offer from us, like, I think the guys feel good about it. Like, I earned this offer. I know exactly how much I'm getting with it. It's not like they're not BSing me here. Okay, they offer me a dollar amount. I know they watched my film. They told me about myself. So I think, I mean, you're weeding out the kids just by not offering them early.
Yeah, and I mean, sometimes it can be frustrating knowing that you're probably, like one spot I can think of, that comes up with a lot is the quarterback position, where a lot of schools are looking for that guy. And even if we've gotten that kid and his family to campus and whatever else, at that point, it really becomes anyone's game because everyone knows that he's a good player. And it may come down to the money. It may come down to X and O's, the academic side of the university, whatever. But it does, at times that frustration can set in. And when you're like, we know that we're going to do something. And, and if you're kind of sitting back waiting, you're like, a little bit of you just doesn't want to miss out on that opportunity or make that kid feel some sort of slighted in a way because you were so long or it's just you're so patient of getting him his offer.
Wade, you mentioned that You guys at Moorhead State there, 10 plus majors at your guys' school, and then the academic side is struggling financially. Does that hurt you guys in the recruiting process somewhat? Do people use negative recruiting towards you, like, hey, that school's struggling, they're cutting academic programs, you don't want to go there, you don't want that degree? Do you guys see other schools using that as negative fuel, or?
A little bit. You don't necessarily get told about it a whole lot, or what other schools may be saying, but at some degree you've seen it a little bit of where like, I guess one that I can say that hurts us a lot is we technically don't have engineering as a major, but you can major in physics and still have all the prerequisites to continue to go to school in engineering, but that's a really hard sell. So I think for us, that's kind of something that pops up more times than not, is, well, we can get you this, but it's not going to say it. You know what I mean? That's one example that I can think of.
Let's transition this to talk more a little bit about how the pandemic is affecting next season. Obviously, did you guys get one practice in?
No.
You didn't? Okay, I think North Dakota State got one spring ball practice in.
Yep.
You guys didn't get any.
No, we were going to start that next week.
Yeah, 15, for people that don't really understand it, 15 spring ball practices is so essential to development, obviously, fundamentals, but the scheme, and at Moorhead State, at a North Dakota State, the scheme is pretty complex. And, it's the same defense, so obviously it's the same at both. But how are you guys handling that? Are you guys doing Zoom meeting with the players? How many times a week are you guys doing that? Are you planning on reeling back install in the fall? What's kind of the game plan, how you guys are attacking this?
Well, technically we can't meet with them anymore, but kind of when spring ball was supposed to go on, we were able to meet with those guys and have Zoom meetings. I know for the linebackers, we had 2 meetings a week, and then I thought it helped some of the younger guys like learn the little things that you don't get in spring ball. So we went over formations for about 2 weeks, just every way you can call a formation. Like playing there, like there's all these names. You got gun near, rifle far open, and like Dynasty, all this stuff. So we went over motions and like shifts and stuff like that and formations, which helped the guys mentally, but just not being able to take those reps, I think really is going to hurt us a little bit, just because you got new stuff that you want to kind of install in the spring, see if it works, see if they can pick up on it, or at least just install it just so they have a little time with it going in the fall. Okay, so I think that's going to hurt us a little bit. I think honestly we might have to kind of wind back on the install, just because we don't have those reps that we really needed during that spring ball.
Yeah, and even offensively, so Coach Lockwood kind of gave the coaches all the freedom and how we wanted to go upon our installs and everything. He, with like Carlton mentioned with the Kara being so that we could get 4 hours in with our guys a week. Some guys were meeting 4 times a week for an hour. Wide receivers were same thing, meeting once or twice a week for that. And then we also were using some other advantages that we have that we found out that we could have always used, but we haven't. So we've been using this media space thing where you can create an install video, just sharing your screen using Huddle and talking through everything, and then just sharing that with our guys. So all of us coaches kind of created a channel on that space, and then we did all the installs, posted Indy if we had our own Indy filmed, if we got it from if you've got it from other clinics or stuff you see on Twitter, whatever, just to kind of keep guys busy when they're, trying to work out and do this stuff on their own. But it's been really good. I was able to have those guys, they can go in, click, watch those videos whenever they want, and then come back, and then we'll basically just review it, what they didn't get. We'll do some quizzes, stuff like that. So, and a little bit too, like Carlton said, you can really, break it down a little bit more than you probably obviously would in a normal spring ball setting. But the good thing is we feel like, if anything, this is going to help our incoming guys a lot too with that media space, because they can now watch that stuff throughout the entire summer, have a really good explanation of the plays and everything like that. And then, hopefully they almost have an entire install, ready to go by first day of fall camp.
If you guys do end up getting a shortened fall camp, say, only 2 weeks or something like that, I mean, talk about what you would maybe try to do install wise, just to get a game plan together for week one. I mean, if you only have a shortened period of time, and you probably have to have some sort of acclimation without pads and just walkthroughs. And what would that process look like, say, if you only get 2 weeks before the first game instead of a regular fall camp?
You think you just have to be really basic with the guys in the install, I guess, because you don't know who's going to play. You're for sure going to have a few freshmen who have to pick it up and play, so you won't be able to call the things that you would normally call, especially if you have like a more veteran team who knows it. So, I mean, we'll see kind of how it works out, but if it is shortened, I think we just got to teach them a few things and just run with that, and we better be great at those few things instead of being more complex for a lot of things.
Do you think it hurts the offense or defense more with things? I personally think, the offense without their timing and rhythm is really going to struggle with things.
Yeah, I for sure think offense.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, those physical things is going to be the hardest part. And hitting off what Carl said. See, then I look at it as, I feel like the defense is that the mental part of that's going to be harder for them. Where, obviously offense, you can make things a little bit more simple. And not have too many problems with it. But then, as far as, like I said, with that media space stuff, we've kind of got ourselves prepared for the opportunity that we're going to have to record these meetings and have these guys log in when we're not there. We don't know what type of restrictions may be upon us when we get back. So are we going to put our trust in our guys, which I feel pretty confident in doing, of, hey, you guys got to go in and watch the film meeting and then come back, and once we get to practice, you got to know, because we don't have that time, or we're not going to be allowed to be around each other as much as, normal.
What are you guys hearing? So, I mean, is it like after July 4th break, they can come back? What's kind of the deal right now?
For us, we've heard that that's the earliest. We did get an email saying that as of right now, most of the Minnesota State universities are going to allow their students to be back in the fall, to be on campus, because a lot of athletic directors and stuff like that have said, we're not going to play sports if we can't have school, basically, and it's a lot of hearsay and everything like that. But the earliest is we've talked about the guys being back, but we've heard rumors of only 10, allowing 10 guys in at a time, and then completely disinfecting everything and then doing that. So like our strength staff, they'd have to be there from 6 a.m., 5 a.m. till, almost 10 p.m. to get 100 football players in. And coming from a Division II school, our head strength and conditioning coaches, he's also got to train other teams as well, and they're going to want their athletes to train. So that could be a big issue just with that. So we don't know if that's going to be the case as far as them coming back in July. We've looked at it as more, can we at least get them all together so they can run and do the conditioning? We're going to find that that's probably going to be almost more important at that point than the weights, probably, you know what I mean? So getting that, and then obviously if we can have students on campus, fall camp should be normal-ish. We don't know what restrictions, because they're going to want sanitizing stations everywhere. We've heard, hey, we're only going to allow X amount of guys in the locker room. So we've brought up the possibility of, hey, do we have the bigs come out, and the bigs are going to do Indy, and then when we only, like, the short amount of time we could have our team together, we'll come in, we'll run all of our team, and then the bigs will go to the locker room, and all the skill and combo kids will now go through their Indy. And, most likely they're like special teams and stuff like that. So, it's kind of wild thinking about all the different possibilities and how we're going to have to possibly, adjust to everything.
I know game day is not usually too wild and crazy over at Evans.
You haven't seen the end zone extravaganza. You don't know what it's like to have a beer garden in the end zone.
It's true.
Yeah, in North Dakota State.
That was a great move by Moorhead, putting beer in the end zone. That'll draw fans in. But I played in Terre Haute, Indiana, in front of 400 people before for a Division I football game, and I can't imagine just playing in front of 0 people. Can you, like, if they don't allow fans into the stands, how weird is game day gonna be?
There's no fans. I mean, you got to get that energy. Like, kind of, we said, like, when you go to Indiana, you better bring your own energy.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's what we got to preach if we're not having fans there. And I mean, I'm sure it'll affect quite a few players because, I mean, that's kind of what you feed off of, like those fans. Like, you love those cheers, like when you make a big play. And it's got to be just more of a team emphasis where, hey, if your guy makes a play, we better be cheering him up because, I mean, we're our own cheerleaders. And so it'll be a little different, even like coaching-wise. Like, you feel a little bit of that rush when you have those fans there behind you. So it'll be a different atmosphere if there's no fans out there.
Yeah, and I think, even – like on that subject too, it might be a little bit easier transition for the Division II athletes. Like you were saying, it's not, we're not playing in front of 20,000 plus every weekend or anything like that. So, and it's not like necessarily the stadiums are huge and you're going to feel like, you're all enclosed by this big empty stadium. Right. So, I mean, I feel like the lower levels of college football will adjust to it probably a little easier depending on what they're going to make the decision for in the Division I's.
Yeah, it's interesting too, just thinking about fall camp and all of the restrictions you may not have. The biggest thing with the NSIC is there's no non-conference games. Every game is extremely important, and that's one of the coolest things about that conference. So, Carlton talks about potential smaller install. Who do you guys have week 1?
We play Southwest State University.
So that'll be a tough game. You guys battled them close last year?
Yep.
Yeah. You won?
Yep.
Okay, yeah, that's what I thought. So from that standpoint, it makes it so difficult because, I mean, Carlton, as well as I do as, a coordinator, you always kind of want to put the best package in to stop their offense. Well, now that might not be the case because the best package might not be what you can run week 2, week 3, week 4. And you got to kind of put in the best package for the season, not necessarily for game 1, where usually you're thinking, all right, we got 2 weeks, let's do what we do. And then we got a week and some change to prepare for week 1 and make sure we're firing on all cylinders.
I think it'd be more of like how Coach Hayes did it back in the day. Like, we were really good at Zone Y.
It's who we are. It's what we do.
Yeah, so I think we need to probably install something that we know that, like, that's our bread and butter. Okay, so we're going to for sure install that, get good at that. And then for sure each week, I think we should probably figure out, okay, let's run this coverage. But when all, like, if it hits the fan and we know we're getting gashed, we need that fallback plan like we had, like, that Zone Y. Okay, so I think we need to get good at something, get really good at that, and then after that, let's start trying to experiment with some other things.
Defensively, do you feel – I mean, you have to feel a little bit cheated not having a spring ball with who you have coming back on defense. And it is a more veteran group, which Division II football, Division III football, retention is such a big deal. And you guys are finally kind of at the point defensively where you can get really creative. And a spring ball would have been huge to maybe experiment, pick up a couple extra minors. Obviously, you got what you're going to major in, and you're going to do that kind of like you're talking about with Coach Hazelton and Zone Y. It's who we are. It's what we do. But, I mean, you got to feel cheated a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, when you have that veteran group where, like, this is like the year where we should be dominant, where we can put some extra stuff in. So it sucks knowing that. I mean, we got 15 practices that we pretty much got cheated out of where I'm like, I want to see exactly what we can do on the field before going to that fall. And it's like, I mean, you're losing thousands of reps and that, I mean, something you can't make up, which, I mean, it sucks, but that's something you just got to roll with, I guess.
From a athletic department standpoint, how badly, not just Minnesota State Moorhead, but I'm sure even North Dakota State, I'm sure some Power Fives, how badly are you guys hurting because of this thing? Or are you guys not really hearing as much? That's more of a above your pay grade type of deal? That's a head ball coach thing, or what are the lasting effects going to be?
Yeah, I mean, about as much as I can probably really elaborate on it is that it hurts the universities as a whole. I mean, obviously you're refunding kids back a lot, a good portion of money because, everything developed into an online setting for classes. So, and as far as the athletic department stuff, I mean, I'm sure there's been some hits and stuff like that, but I know I guess just speaking from our perspective is we've been a little bit more focused on the future, just because that whole thing came out with the colleges getting cuts, around the state. So preparing for that and how to handle that. I mean, the guys that are above our pay grade, from our perspective have handled that, great and kept us in the loop about as much as they can. We know that there's sacrifices that are going to have to be made everywhere. And it's just how well we adjust to that.
There was last week, we talked a little bit with Billy and T, and obviously you guys know T just as well as we all coached together for that one season at Minnesota State. We talked about this new proposed rule that the NCAA is talking about where players can be paid by a third party for their name, their image, their likeness. How do you guys think that will, A, just affect college football in general at any level, but then B, how are you guys looking to use that to an advantage in a recruiting setting?
I don't think D2, like us, the image, don't really get affected by it, but I do like the rule, honestly. Like, if you walk into a Shields and you see your jersey out there, you're like, I mean, I want to get paid for that. Like, you're making money off of it. I think I should too, but I don't think it'll really affect D2 that much. But I mean, it's going to for sure affect like Division I, and I think it was going to be hard to kind of police that. I don't think it's going to be hard to like keep a kid focused and the kid like, if I'm in Alabama and I got like whatever Dick's Sporting Goods, like a Shields, like trying to pay me and trying to say, hey, you want to come do this, and like you can get paid for that. Like, it's hard to keep a guy focused, honestly, when you're throwing money at him. But I think that it's good for college athletes. You got to find a way to make it fair. You got to find a way to police it where it doesn't get out of hand.
Yeah, you might have been the only player ever to have number 38 getting sold at a Shields or something like that. That ain't the greatest number. But so Colton Hegel listened to the podcast last week, and we all know Colton. He held me accountable quickly. So one of the rules is you can't use the school or the conference logo. And obviously, if they're selling jerseys, they got the school logo on it. So he said I obviously made a mistake on that point. But there has to be some sort of compensation for that or some stipulation in the rule. They're not just selling 38 jerseys because it's the coolest number.
Yeah, I didn't know that rule.
So that's the one stipulation is apparently the proposed rule was you can't use the logo or the conference logo. You can just use your name, your image, and your likeness. So I don't know how that would work, Cole. I don't know if you heard any more about that, but Colton called me up. He's like, man, you got it wrong.
I didn't hear any more on it. I'm guessing they'll do something along the lines of if you pay a licensing fee to the school and conference, you'll be able to use it because the school is just going to want to get paid on it too. So I'm guessing if you pay the licensing fee also to the school, say 10% of whatever the deal is, I think that's usually what it is, you could probably use the logo. So I'm guessing something like that will get in place. You can sell the jersey, with the player on it as well, or, use NDSU's logo, or whatever it's going to be. That'd be my guess for how that goes.
Wade, what are your thoughts on the whole deal? I'd imagine you're for it.
Oh yeah, 100%. After listening to both T and Billy hit on it last week, they both did a pretty good job of explaining it. Being in a higher level of football and their playing careers and everything as well. And yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more. I'm with Carlton too. I don't know what it's going to necessarily do for Division II. Like you would think maybe little small things here and there, but it's going to be Division I where they're going to reap the benefits. Those guys that try to sign autographs, they're finally going to get compensated for it, and I think it's really good for all the college athletes.
I think with the II and Division III players, where you can see it come to play is guys that really know how to use their social media, guys that know how to build a YouTube page or an Instagram page and market themselves and build a following, or TikTok and build that following, where you have 100, 200, 300,000 followers behind you. That's maybe where you're going to get some sponsors that way, for the lower level guys, because I can't imagine Shields is going to sign, the quarterback at MSUM over the quarterback at NDSU type situation. So I think it gives them some more freedoms, on, the social media or YouTube, channel, which I always thought, hey, if you can market yourself, on your own, on YouTube or any of those channels, you should be able to make money on it. And I think that's maybe where the D2 and D3 players come into play for that stuff.
Yeah, I think we're going to see some pretty creative ideas, getting spun once this hits.
Speaking of the NDSU quarterback, how about this Trey Lance guy? Has he just blown? I mean, we all knew he was really good, but I feel like he just, over the week, he just completely blew up. He's like, someone released him the number 4 overall draft pick next year already. He's number 15 on Mel Kiper's big board and the number 3 quarterback. Pretty crazy.
I watched every snap of the season last year. I worked radio for the team, and I mean, his deep ball is as good as it gets. It is really, really pretty the way he spins it. Obviously, just super, super young and super raw still. And as he keeps developing, if he finishes this year and has a first round projected grade on him, like, you have to leave. Like, you have to leave. I don't almost be disappointed if he stayed. Like, I would be like, get to the NFL, get paid. Go play. Go play in the bigs up there. And this will be a big. This is obviously a tough offseason for him. No spring ball practice to work on those. Maybe accuracy things on the short passes that he had. Or work on installing more things to develop his game. And obviously the weight room situation. He's jumping around gyms trying to get what he can in, and just throwing with some of his receivers in random fields. It's not ideal, but I think this is what will separate some of the players too. When the draft process comes around and they ask the strength coach, like, hey, what did he do during the COVID? Did he sit around, or did he find ways to be creative? Did he find ways to get workouts in and find ways to do things? And I can't imagine that's not going to be a question asked at a lot of combines going forward, is how you handled the situation. And man, I hope he goes the whole season, doesn't throw another pick and beats out Carson Wentz and goes number 1 overall. But I don't think he's beating out Trevor Lawrence of Clemson and probably not Justin Fields of Ohio State.
Yeah, Trevor Lawrence is the real deal. I broke down a few of his games. I'm not a Clemson guy. That dude, I mean, he's the real deal. You want to talk about a deep ball? Whew. Now he's got some cats out there too that he's throwing it to, but my goodness.
Yeah, you watch that Ohio State game. I mean, that's when he really answered the question. A lot of people are like, he's a good athlete and obviously wants to stay in the pocket and use his arms, but man, some of those big runs he had against Ohio State were, I mean, that was incredible, because obviously we saw how many freak shows were walking around that defense.
I mean, you have to have a quarterback that can move now. And you look at Fields from Ohio State; he can move. Lawrence obviously can move, and Trey Lance can move. Trey Lance is built like a defensive end or linebacker. Like, he can run you over. He can run by you, and that's what I think. His ability to move in the pocket, and all 3 of those guys' ability to move in the pocket is what makes him so dangerous. We got a guy named Kirk Cousins that's a complete statue in the pocket and a liability. So tank for Trevor. Let's go get Trevor Lawrence next year. Tank for Trey. Give me one of those guys. I want a guy that can move in the pocket.
Well, that's gonna be the crazy thing too. Like, if he decides to come out and gets teams are gonna love to say, hey, we're gonna take this kid in the first round, and even if it's a team that maybe has a quarterback that's older and take the time to develop him. I mean, that could be real scary. I mean, they've already shown, Carson's already went out and shown that, obviously what they're doing at NDSU can translate to the big time, and those guys can pick up on it and really get rolling with it.
For sure.
It's got to make you wonder, Carlton, what would have been if North Dakota State would have just played you at quarterback like you did in high school? They robbed you.
I was robbed of college experience. I mean, I was an okay linebacker. I could have been a phenomenal quarterback. check the film.
Who threw a better ball? You were Christian Dudzik. You guys.
I had a way better arm than Dudzik. He wanted to think that he was like the guy, but if it came to it, I was really QB3 out there.
Dudzik was the perfect version of, he'll throw you the ball perfectly as hard as he can multiple times, and then all of a sudden he'll throw it 5 yards in front of you into the dirt. And you're like, what are you doing?
Josh Allen or what?
Yeah, I guess. Well, we finally, just kind of some current event. We finally had a live sporting event last night, and I know all four of us were texting during it back and forth. Does it give kind of hope that the NBA season's not going to be canceled? Now that the UFC, you're shaking your head, Carl, you think it's going to be canceled?
I think it's done.
No, they will play. They will play. Baseball, it sounds like they're going to announce their plan this week, shortened schedule, no fans. Basketball will follow suit, but no fans for the start of it. There's too much money. LeBron's legacy is right on the line right now, you know?
For real.
It's a serious thing. I honestly think if it's last year where LeBron's legacy is really not on the line, maybe they don't rush it back. Like, LeBron's the face of the NBA right now. I mean, Joey Blackmore says it best. He thinks LeBron's better than Jordan all the time. So
that ain't it.
I think all major sports will be back. It sounds like North Dakota State has an opportunity to be back on campus June 1st. Iowa said they're going to be on campus June 1st. I think these teams are going to start getting back around each other. Facilities are going to start opening back up. You can play these things, with adequate testing and no fans in the stands to start getting games in. I mean, if they're playing baseball over in Korea with no fans, I don't think we're that far away from some of these sports getting going again. And I'd watch anything at this point. I mean, UFC was phenomenal last night. Great card, great fights. I mean, I would watch a 12-4 baseball game right now. That was really boring because I just want to watch sports.
Right. I mean, I was watching marble racing just to watch something competitive. You know what I mean? So I'll take that. And I honestly think after this weekend, the UFC and Dana White and everyone, I mean, they obviously showed what it takes and how to do it successfully. I mean, everyone probably got a little nervous when one of the fighters tested positive technically the night before, but they knew about it going in and they kept him away from everyone when he did his weigh-in. It was just him and the guy weighing him in the entire room. So, I mean, how they handled all that, and obviously it's different from sport to sport, but that's what I'm going to be interested to see. In basketball, are they going to say, hey, we're going to station some teams in Vegas and we're going to station some teams in Orlando, and we're going to play on a facility. They're going to live in a hotel. Same thing, that you've heard with the MLB. What are they going to do? Are they going to, I guess the last rumor I heard is that they're going to allow them to play in their home stadiums now, obviously with no fans. But, they had that one rumor about them either being in, Arizona and Florida and playing at spring training and a couple other parks and stuff like that. So that's what I'm pretty interested to see. And, I mean, I think you just got to do it, put a little asterisk by it. Obviously 2020 is the year of coronavirus and everything's going to be a little different as far as who played who and who won championships and the shortened seasons and whatever else.
Yeah, Dana White and the UFC, I mean, they essentially laid out the blueprint and they did a phenomenal job. To think that one person tested positive out of the whole staff, the coaches, the fighters, the refs, everybody that was, involved. Obviously, they shrunk their operation as much as they could to get it done. But you knew someone was going to test positive. And it happened to be Jacare, who was fighting on the prelims versus Uriah Hall, which I was really looking forward to that fight. But anyways, obviously, health is more important. But they handled it correctly. They got him out. Now they know that he is positive. They can get him the help that they need, that he needs, that his family needs, because he had family members that were positive and they kind of knew about it going into it, that, hey, I may have been around people that were asymptomatic or whatever the case may be. But moving forward, I think, Cole, I think you're right. I think they have to try to just go right into the playoffs with it. The top 8 seeds from each, the West and the East. And if the UFC can do it, I think they can play basketball. I think they can do essentially every sport. The only sport that gets tricky is football.
Yeah, I think what happens. I think honestly, there's too much money involved. They're just, you start looking at some of these states, just the tax revenues that these stadiums would bring in. We'll see with ticket sales, with no ticket sales, no concessions. These states are going to lose a ton of money as well. And I think at some point it might be monetarily driven to open things back up and get those revenues back rolling again. And, hopefully it's done safely, done effectively. And hopefully we can, go to a baseball game and eat a hot dog or, watch the playoffs or, do whatever we are accustomed to doing in the long run.
How do you feel about this last dance? There's 2 Sundays left.
Love it.
It's been fantastic.
It's been good. I'm not a basketball guy, and I've been tuning in. I mean, obviously Jordan produces it or gets the last say on everything, so it's slightly biased in his favor any way he wants. But it's a pretty good story. I'm excited to kind of find out more about his, first time leaving the Bulls, the baseball story, that aspect of it. And man, what's crazy to me is some of these guys, Knight, one of the best coaches of all time, Larry Bird, these guys, when Jordan first entered the league, they knew he was the best player like that early. Like they were like, this guy's different. And these are some of the best players ever to be around the game, and they just knew, which is so crazy. That early into his career, they're like, okay, this is maybe the best basketball player on the planet or of all time. And he was so fresh, wasn't winning championships, wasn't doing these things, and guys were like, okay, look out for him. He's the guy.
Carlton, what are your thoughts as a huge LeBron advocate? He, in case you guys don't know, he got my son LeBron James. What is it like I haven't read it, but he got him a book, LeBron James book for his first birthday. And I'm a pretty diehard Michael guy, but what are your thoughts on it?
No, I like it. I like to get a closer look at Jordan because, clearly, like, we were at an age where we didn't get to see, like, prime Jordan. So you can watch, like, documentaries, but they never, like, have Jordan in it. Like, he's not, like, truly a part of them. So I like this. Like, it gives you something to do, like, every Sunday. It's like TV is actually back. It's not just Netflix and all that stuff. Like, I feel like TV's back just for this one show. But, no, I like watching it. The only thing is, like, I think I want him to play in the 2000s. Like, prime Jordan in the 2000s, dude, basketball would be just, like, so competitive. Like, get him against, like, the Kevin Durant's, like, all those guys, like the James Hardens and all those guys. I want to see, like, how he meshes with all that stuff.
Yeah, I wish prime Jordan could just keep playing forever. Because it seems like one thing that I think is just crazy is when you see the clips of him, like, leaving a hotel and I don't know, but no one is like that anymore, right? Like, you don't see people just get completely mobbed like that ever. I mean, not any athlete. I mean, Michael Jordan was just I truly feel disservice not being able to fully appreciate it. And because of that, it makes me want the NBA playoffs so badly. And it makes me want to see LeBron on the Lakers and see if he can win one. God, I just hope I hope things get put back together a little bit so we can see the ending to a pretty awesome season so far.
Right. I think it's going to be interesting tonight to kind of see what ended up driving him away, for that, short time, because they've obviously shown it in the previews for tonight. But like you were saying, it is crazy because obviously guys today don't get mobbed like that. And maybe a little bit of it is how everything's handled now with security and stuff like that. But like also even like the social media stuff, like, he started getting, some bad raps for his gambling, and how much that upset him. It's going to be, what would have been like, today it's crazy, but LeBron has a glass of wine and he's an alcoholic. So it's like, so
one of the most, obviously LeBron James is a complete freak show, clearly one of the best NBA players of all time. It is remarkable that he has no stains in this living, like going through this era being, when was he just a complete superstar? When he was like 15, 16?
Yeah.
He's lived his whole life under a complete microscope. And he's got to be like the best human ever.
Like if there's that one about his high school team, if you watch like what the hotels were like when they went to like, Florida and stuff to play their high school games, they look like a rock band, with the amount of people that would be outside their hotels.
Wild.
Yeah. It's gonna, the last thing too, that's like been my biggest takeaway from this whole thing is how competitive Michael is and how he's competitive in literally everything that he does. And like how much he hated Jerry Krause. I feel like no one really ever sees that side of anything, but he'd be like, oh yeah, Jerry really liked this defensive player on the Suns. All right, I'm going to go, drop 60 on him and like shut him up. Like the whole Tony Kukoc thing.
Bullied him
in the Olympics. Crazy, man.
I love it. He, and we all know him, but he reminds me in a way of Colton Hegel. Like when he got on the bus and started honking the horn and the reporters are trying to interview Scottie Pippen, I'm like, that's something Colton Hegel would have done.
Got to make it tea time.
Yeah, it's too funny. We love it.
That's awesome. I appreciate you guys joining us on episode 3 of the Dynasty Sports Podcast. Good luck this next football season. Hopefully we can have you on. We'll break down some Dragon film this year, and we appreciate it.
Yeah, anytime. Appreciate you guys letting us on.
Thanks for having us.
We'll see you, fellas.
All right.